Okay, this tube right here that goes to this part, just wiggle it and it should come out. And this is a metal pipe. Okay, clean up all this old gasket material. We're just going to use a straight razor blade. And do it at an angle. And then it's best if you get some transmission fluid or some kind of oil on here to help cut down on the friction so you don't gouge into the metal. And just take your time cleaning this off. Okay, there's two solenoids, a brown one and a black one. And they're held on by 10mm bolts. Okay, just carefully twist them off. You might need to get a flathead and carefully pry this off too. Yeah, just use a twisting motion. Looks like it's held on by 3 O-rings here. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I'm going to try the same thing with this. Just use a twisting motion under here while you try to twist it. Okay, this one has 3 O-rings too, but this one was harder to get out because there's some corrosion here, or rust. I just found out that this is actually a oil temperature sensor, probably to detect the ATF fluid temperature. Okay, we're going to take off this solenoid, and it's 4 10mm bolts on each corner. Looks like I'll need a extension. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 bolts. Okay, and on the bottom you can see that I've already changed out my my rubber gasket here. Make sure you change it out if yours is really old. Okay, I'm going to try to put this transmission face down, and that gap between the two boards, I want that shaft right there to go between the gap so that it doesn't get pushed on. Okay, I'm going to replace this, but for now I think trying to separate the case, I don't think that this needs to come off. I don't think that this one and that one need to come off right now, because it looks like it's part of some kind of valve. That's gonna stay. Actually, yeah, I'll keep it on for now. These two look like they're part of a valve too, so I don't know if these come off. This speed sensor, I'm going to take it off to clean inside of it and replace the O-ring. But to get this end cover off, I don't think you have to remove this right now. So that's going to stay. And I think all we need to do is remove these 10mm bolts all around the edge here. So just follow it and just remove all of those bolts. Alright, I'm just going to follow along this edge and just try to guess which bolt it is. It felt like it was wearing a strip. I think it was actually the ratchet though. I've had to rebuild this before. just be careful your ratchet doesn't snap that off. Okay, I think that's everything. Actually, I don't even think this needs to come off. It's not even holding, it's not even bolted into anything. This one probably doesn't need to come off either. And actually it does. And this one doesn't look like it needs to come off. I don't even know if that's a bolt hole. Something did go here, I'm not sure what. This one doesn't bolt down to these two halves, so I don't think you have to remove this one. Okay, so I'm just gonna go around with a block of wood, and right here is a good place to leverage it on, because you have this right here and you have that lip. Now, one thing that's really dangerous is you might want to take this off, because you don't want to snap off this connector on the speed sensor. And be careful with that too. So I'm putting the block of wood there and lightly tapping it with a hammer here, and then putting cleaning the wood right here and then lightly tapping on the bottom of it. And I'm basically just gonna go around the case and try to tap on anything that I see, like right here, that, and anything else, and try to tap off that end cover. So I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this just so it doesn't break off. This 10mm nut right here, just take that off and you should be able to wiggle this off. And then I'm gonna take this off too, just in case. And this should be a 22mm. I don't know if you put a socket on it, but you can put a closed-ended wrench on it, not the one with the open end, because you might strip this. Yeah, so you want to clean that up and then replace this O-ring right here. Then I'll put this bolt back in so I don't I'll be able to know which bolt goes where. Okay, so 22mm closed-ended wrench. And actually that was really easy. And there's, if you notice, there's a aluminum washer right on it, so it's actually not even crushed. Actually, I probably replaced this myself, so I must have forgot to tighten it. As you can see, it's lifting just really slow. So just keep tapping on here, put the wood here, and then tap on that piece of wood. And this edge right here. Okay, eventually I loosened it, and I just gotta be really careful because I don't know what's inside of it. Actually, we can look around the edge to see if there's anything important that's gonna fall out. And I can tell that's the original gasket, or unless they took this apart, but that's the OEM gasket. Okay, you can see that there's that pipe and this pipe. So I'm be really careful when I pull this off. I'm trying to be really careful so I don't lose the bolts, because I don't know, because some of these bolts are different lengths and I'm not sure which is which, so I'm trying to keep it together. So there's right there's a O-ring, 2 more O-rings right there, and this looks like, I'm not sure what that is, an accumulator or something. Looks like a tiny bearing right here, and this one looks like some kind of it's a small pipe. I'm not sure what it is. And this one is like 2 pipes together, and this is a single pipe. Looks like there's a circlip holding that in right there. So I found this tool on Amazon. It's made by Tack Life, and it's like a Dremel. It was about $32, and it came with this wand. So you just put the bit at the end, and you can set the speed right here, and the on-off switch is right there. So you can basically see that I covered up the holes so that dust wouldn't get into it, and I started cleaning some of the transmission up. It oxidizes really quick, I notice, but I might just paint over it or maybe clear coat it or something. There's also a spray that's acidic that can brighten this, but I'm not sure if I want to use it, because if I accidentally get it inside the transmission, that's not good. Show you the tool in action. Make sure you use low RPM, because if it's too fast, all these bristles on the bit will just fly off and get into your eye and stuff. So wear eye protection and probably dust protection. It's basically like cleaning teeth, so it takes a long time. And then cleaning up the bolts is pretty nice too. But you can see it works even on this hard grind that's been on here for years. And just one more thing, the wand, if you unscrew this, there's basically like a giant coil that goes inside of here. Just pull out that metal coil tube and grease it with whatever grease you have, and then slide it back into this hose, and then I would actually take it out and then grease it again and do it at least one more time. It doesn't look like it, but I did polish up the whole case, and what's weird is it right after you polish it, it oxidizes like immediately. So this is basically as good as it's gonna get unless I'm gonna paint it. Okay, so if you notice this nut right here, there's actually an arrow on it that's pointing counterclockwise. So what that means is counterclockwise tightens it. Same with this nut, there's an arrow right there pointing counterclockwise, which means it's also reverse threaded or left hand threaded. And this one right here, this one I don't I don't see an arrow, so it's a normal thread, which is right hand threaded. Okay, so I actually turned this by hand to the park position, and just be careful because I did hit my finger with this. What that does is it jams it in there and it puts it into park. Usually the ways that I've seen it in videos is they'll use an impact wrench to impact this off, but I've heard from one person online that it broke their teeth and they had to replace those. So the proper way is to get the Honda holder tool, and it goes right into the shaft, but that doesn't really make any sense to me. I would buy it if it sounded like it would work, but it sounds like it does the exact same thing as this. Impact wrench should work. I mean, these gears shouldn't break. I don't know why it broke on that one guy's transmission, but there's two ways I think we can do this. Jam this into park and then try to twist this off, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of park, and this time I'm not going to use my fingers, so I'll probably use this to okay, so it's out of park now. What I'm going to do is, I've seen Eric the car guy jam a rag in here, so I'm going to try to do that. Okay, if this rag doesn't work, I'll go back to the parking brake method. I'm just worried that it might damage the tooth on here, and I really don't want to replace any parts on here if I don't have to. So I'll use this method if this doesn't work. Okay, since this is reverse threaded, that means to get this off, we're gonna go righty-tighty, except this way it's gonna be righty-loosey. So I'll hold this here with one hand, and then I'll get this started. It's gonna turn it this way, so it's gonna feed this rag into both of these gears. And the tool I'm gonna use is, what's weird is these reverse threaded nuts and also the normal threaded nut, Honda lists it as 24 millimeters. It's obviously not 24 millimeters. This tool right here is from Tecton, 34 millimeter, and that's what the package looks like. What's weird about these is I've measured this with a caliper. It's just under 34 millimeters, and this measured at 34.5 to 34.6 millimeters, so it's got quite a bit of slop on it. But what's even weirder is that the 32 millimeter, it's only got about 32.3, so it's only got 0.3 millimeters of slop, and this has 0.5 to 0.6 millimeters of slop, and there's only 2 millimeters of difference between 32 and 34 millimeter sockets. I went to O'Reilly's auto parts store, and their 34 millimeter, it measures just barely under 35 millimeters, so it's got even more slop than this. So if you can get one that's got a really tight tolerance, I would get that, but so far I guess this is the best that I could find. Okay, so I'm using this long breaker bar. It's a 1/2 inch drive, and I'm gonna slowly try to feed this rag into it. So like I said, to loosen this one, it's gonna be righty-loosey. So you don't want the rag too thick. I think I folded it like 2 times, and I'm just gonna try to slowly feed it in. We might actually have to brace the transmission because. Huh. Alright, I'm gonna get a wider angle because I think I'm gonna need to hold the transmission.